and he was pressed on it with Piers Morgan, how you really say most black people should be in jail. And
yes, they should.
What do you mean? Most
they
black
should.
people?
Yes. The ones that obviously do the crimes, but I don't need to explicitly.
But that's not what that sentence means.
I'm not taking that 110% literal.
Amir, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have done a lot of coverage, as have you, about Nick Fuentes for folks who've been living under a rock. He's kind of the far right, I would say, influencer who's had a moment and has really risen and gone viral. I've been very critical of him. He is not a fan of me and hasn't been for years. He's not a fan of gay people in general. So he did call me AIDS face on his stream, but I'll try to set that aside as we analyze him. So I know it is funny. He is funny. Absolutely. I give him credit. He's funny. He's charismatic. But I've been very critical of him. I'm somebody who I find his views to be extreme, hateful, and then also disingenuous. But I've watched some of your videos about him, and people have encouraged me to have a conversation with you to see if there's something I'm missing about him or if there's a positive aspect. And I think it's a great idea. So why don't you tell me, like, what's the positive side of Nick Fuentes that you see?
Yeah. So for me, I'm just not invested so much to say in hating him or just not liking him. I just understand that he has different views than me. I understand that there are some things that I do agree with and stances that he has, and understand in large part his stream and how for 3 hours it's a very big mix of I'm being serious and this is my opinion versus I'm just on a Discord call with my bros to just joking around. There's very many differences of Nick throughout that one stream, in large part because he was so heavily canceled and heavily just censored throughout all these years. He was on these very, very niche platforms where he didn't have to like censor himself or buckle up. Like he didn't have to be anything he's not. Like he was just cutting up all the time with his followers, and that's what he still does to this day. So there are some things that he says that are just completely out of pocket, but I hear it from the tone of just chatting with your bros. And I know for me, my Discord calls when I'm playing Fortnite with my guy friends, it's abysmal. It's actually bad. And there are some videos that I've seen of Nick Fuentes where I'm like, this just sounds like a phone call with my friends. So I understand that there's people out there that don't like the takes that he has, but I can say that for anybody. So he's just not been that big of a concern to me, especially when the things that he's right about kind of outweighs or outshines, I guess, some of the things that people just don't like.
What do you think he's right about?
I think he's right about his view on immigration and how it's single-handedly destroying this country. Like, full stop. I would much rather it being paused, honestly. I think his takes on immigration are really good. I think his takes and assessment on race relations in the United States and how different races get along and who's doing what, I think it's all fair. When he talks about the Black community, I hear him and I'm like, this sounds like me and my cousins talking. Like, there are some really harsh things and harsh conversations that need to be had with the Black community and Black people, and they don't like it when Nick says it. But literally, some of the things that he says, even the Black community talks about or makes fun of. So when it comes to, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that I don't agree with his position on immigration, but I understand that, like, your point of view, there is a legitimate point of view that is anti-immigration, like even legal immigration wants a pause, wants a moratorium, and we could have a legitimate policy debate about that. I'm on the side of secure border, but supporting legal immigrants coming to the country in increased amounts, though not like crazy amounts. But we could have that debate, but I actually think that Nick Fuentes is a terrible representative for that debate because he doesn't just criticize immigration. he's like pretty openly racist against immigrants. And it seems to me that he's everything people unfairly accused conservatives of being. They were like, you're not
Hmm.
anti-immigration, you're just racist. And he's like, yeah, we are racist and we want to stop the immigrants. So don't you think that it actually, even if you agree with his positions on those issues, I see him as somebody who taints those positions with his open racism and animus?
I don't necessarily think so, just because we throw out these terms nonstop of being called racist and homophobic and xenophobic to the point where you keep calling me racist. I'm sure I'm just racist at this point. I don't even care. And when you break it down and you are, I'm not going to say real, but when you break it down and you just look at it from a different perspective, I just talked about this with the Somali video. On one end, I do feel bad like grouping Somalis all in one and saying like, what the hell's going on with these Somalis? But on the other, when you move as a group, you open yourself up to be judged as a group and judged as a race. For example, black people, when black people want to group together, black owned businesses, Black Lives Matter, black, black, black. Okay, well, the whole black community is going to catch these strays. They're going to get all the attention. Same with the gay community. With this big LGBTQ plus community, okay, now we got these little Latinos. We have to do PR damage control because she's speaking on behalf of us. So when these groups speak in group speak, it's fair to just be like, yeah, okay, I am just going after blacks or after Somalians. It just, that's the way I've looked at it. And it's like when you say he's a bad representation for this debate, there is no like, here's a representation of like this argument. It's just people sharing their opinion. Um, and I think he's allowed to share his opinion, and whether or not someone wants to look at his opinion as the right or supreme one, that's on them. Um, but I don't think, I think he's in his right to like share that opinion. I think people are in their right to like the things that he's saying because people are just fed up. And
Well, I
like,
think there's two questions here. One is like, does he have the right as a matter of free speech to say the things that he's saying? And I think I agree with you totally that he does. It is free speech, but I also view it as like the same way that the Nazis had a right to march through Skokie, Illinois, right? And that was a big ACLU case decades ago. Or Lily Tino has a free speech right to say insane things about women and all the crazy takes to defend sterilizing kids. It's like, just because someone has a right to say something doesn't mean it's not evil and shouldn't be condemned. And I put a lot of what he says in the category
mhm,
of, sure, it's his free speech, but it's
mhm,
also evil. And I actually think that free speech requires us to draw discernments on what speech is good and bad, not what speech is legal and
mhm.
illegal. It all should be legal if it's just free speech. But otherwise, you kind of just have anarchy in the marketplace of ideas.
But do you feel like even you yourself sometimes have, maybe it's just me, I don't know. Do you feel like you have evil speech sometimes, or evil thoughts like that, like you just have? No?
I would think that I try not to say things that are evil. Maybe we all have bad thoughts, but I think
Right,
I'm
like
not
dark
judging people
humor,
based on
bad thoughts, like,
what they're choosing to say, not their thoughts. And I
hmm.
don't choose to say things on my platform that I think are evil. No.
So like, for example, it's immigration. Like, technically, if I agree with Nick on immigration for the most part, would you say that I'm racist then? Because, or is it just the way it comes
No,
off, or
I think
no,
if
or,
you agree with his position, like stop all immigration, I think that if you agree with the things he says, for example, vote against Vivek Ramaswamy because he's Indian and an anchor baby, and vote for the Democratic Jewish woman because we have to stop this dirty Jeet, right? Like that
mm-hmm,
is a fair characterization of Nick's recent take on
mm-hmm,
Vivek. I think that's a racist position. Yeah, so I think if you agreed with that logic, I would think you were wrong on that question. Again, I
right,
don't like to write. I'm not going to say a person's an evil person because they have one opinion I think is bad,
mm-hmm,
but I do think that's a racist way to talk about and look at immigration. I guess I'll just ask you, like, do you accept that Nick Fuentes is racist? Like, not in the sense of microaggression, I'm triggered,
yeah,
everybody's racist, in the sense that he actually is those things.
I accept I accept that there's a lot of racist people out there. I accept that there's people who have just been like, yep, I am racist, so be it. The amount of times, Brad, I've been told I'm even the most racist people that a lot of people know is insane. And the conversation of if somebody is racist or not, I feel like is not as cut or dry as it used to be. And I
I think
think
it's kind of cut and dry with Nick, though.
it depends on what he's talking about. It depends, like, and even like the whole like Dirty Jeet thing and Nova Vague. Again, I'm not watching 3 hour streams every single day. I know for certain some things are just a funny joke. Others he's just riffing and he's just saying it, and sometimes he's serious. So I'm not here to say like he was 110% serious saying that. I don't know. But in terms of like if you're gonna be racist, it depends. It's like I get called racist every single day because of my
But
views on the black
you're not. You're
community.
actually not, though. That's the difference.
To you, that's the thing though. To you, like I get it. You're saying I'm not. We can go through my messages, and people are saying I am. So on the topic of like who's racist and who's not, it's like it's really at the like whoever's saying it, like
So I
whoever.
guess the part of the reason I feel comfortable calling Nick Fuentes racist is that he himself, like when he's not joking, will say yes. So I want to play you a clip of him on
Yeah.
Peers, and then another clip of him that's from PBD. Listen to this.
I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer,
Can we
really,
pause?
unless you want to say that's another of your jokes.
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
are
What's
these
up?
are these together?
That part's together, yeah.
Okay, never mind. I was gonna say I'll respond to that and then we can go to the next one. But go ahead.
Another of your jokes, but you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. And at that point, they realized I was a pretty far right guy. I was maybe more far right than anybody there. And we're all talking about politics. And it comes up, we're talking about interracial relationships and marriage. And I said, well, I'm not in favor of interracial marriages. That's against my values.
So, I mean, do you not think that you're just objectively are racist if you are against interracial marriage and race mixing?
Brad, I think it depends.
Okay, tell me about it. Tell me why.
I'm saying I think it depends because I don't think it's racist to say, oh, I'm only attracted to white people because I want white kids and I want my whole family lineage to look like me. I don't necessarily find that racist because a lot of cultures do that. I just don't view that as necessarily racist. I don't view it as, oh, I would be upset if my daughter brought home a black guy. Yeah, listen,
I think that's racist, yeah.
on one end, completely racist. But on the other end, there's a lot of cultural things behind that. For example, it's why a lot of black men go for the white woman. They prefer only white women. They prefer the snow bunny. They don't even go after black women. Why? Because of the cultural things. Because the black community largely traps themselves in its ideological box. Have to have your black card, like rap music, want to be a ball player, like, just the most stereotypical black things. We have to lock ourselves in that box. And so it gets very boring. And a lot of black men want to go towards specifically only white women because it's just new culturally. New food. I didn't have a zucchini until I was 18. Like there's new foods, new music, new trips. Like they're open. In large part, white people are way more free and open to do whatever. But black people, like black women, is just like, oh, I don't want to do white people shit. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. So there's a lot of cultural things behind it. And
so I guess the way that I look at it, Amir, is if Nick Fuentes was just personally saying, like, personally, I'm only attracted to white women, that's my type. Even if he went to say, I want my kids to look like me, that part I think gets a little dicier, and I actually think your kids can still look like you, even if they're mixed. But
yeah,
if he was just saying that for him, I would have like no real issue with it. He's saying though, and he's been very clear about this in his different commentaries and clips, he thinks that in general, interracial relationships are wrong and that like other people who engage in them are doing something wrong. And I think that's like just really sick to be against people loving each other and being together and being happy just because you have like an obsession with race and view it as this totalizing thing that I think you and I agree it isn't and shouldn't be considered.
As someone who's married to a white man, I'm just like, I don't care that he thinks that I'm wrong, because I have friends who think that my relationship is wrong. My own grandma, who was light skinned, so funny, found out that my cousin was dating a white girl. She's like, "You out there swirling?" Even my grandma was against interracial relationships. Like, that's what I grew up around. Like, it's in Black culture to like, oh, only date within the Black, and they're not even for interracial relationships. So maybe it's a little different for me. I don't know. And I grew up hearing that from my
I think they're
grandma.
wrong for that though. I think they're also being racist when they say that. Like, and that actually people of any race should be free to be together and it's not immoral.
I think so too. But I do think that is a common enough thing happening where people have this, their own thought. Like, now if Nick is out there parading, say he's parading and pushing for bills, like let's say 10 years down the line, if this is the case, to ban interracial relationships, then yeah, no. But if you want to hold that personal view right now, I don't care, because it's not having any impact on my already solidified and happy-go-lucky interracial relationship.
I mean, he certainly thinks your marriage should be illegal.
A lot of people do.
I mean, a fair percentage of the public does. The support for it's gone down, but I do think that when people are genuinely pushing against interracial marriage and gay marriage, and also like not from there's a version of a person that's against gay marriage who I think is coming from a good place and doesn't hate gay people. But I think with Nick, I mean, he constantly talks about how gay people are filthy and disgusting and calling them slurs, and he's not joking in much of this. Sometimes he's joking, but he's often not. Like, he's,
see, for me, I hear that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what if someone goes to my channel, that's all they take away from it, is that I'm just like trashing gay people, but like there's more context behind it. And so I feel like for Nick, sometimes there's more context behind it, sometimes not. But I'm just not that invested in like calling, I'm not calling him out. I forgot the word.
But isn't that what we do to left-wing
Not
creators
condoning him,
and
I
activists
guess?
all the
I
time?
don't know.
Is call
Go ahead,
them
I'm
out
sorry.
and say, oh, sorry. Yeah, isn't that kind of what we as political commentators who are right of center leaning, isn't that what we do to left-wing creators all the time? Like, we say they're wrong, their message is toxic, don't listen to them, or don't agree with them, not necessarily saying don't listen to them. So why can't we do the same thing with Nick Fuentes? And to be honest with you, I'm not saying this applies to you, but I think some people in our circle just want his viewers and his fans. And so they're a little afraid to say anything bad about him because he brings numbers and he does have adoring fans. And obviously that's good for us. So why can't we condemn him the same way we tell people not to listen to Hassan Piker, right? An equally or a toxic and radical left-wing figure.
But that's why I don't say that, because I personally don't do that. I watch Hassan every day.
Well, I'm sorry, let me
to
clarify.
watch Hassan.
I don't tell people not to listen to him because I also listen to him. What I mean is, don't agree with his message because his message is toxic.
I think you can disagree with somebody without making it your thing to like hate, call out, and not condone and tear down somebody. Like, in my videos that I've done about Nick, there have been instances where I'm like, I'm not vibing with that, but like, let's continue. You're allowed to disagree with somebody, but it's another to give it so much like main attention. Like, for me, I'm much more apt to call out a Lilitino than a Nick, because like Nick is allowed to have his own opinion, whereas, and again, if his opinion gets to the point where it's really impacting laws, then we'll have that discussion. But Nick Fuentes compared to Lilitino, and all the trans people that are actively like impacting laws and transing kids, I'm gonna call that out like a ton. Because also, like, they're trying to do it under the guise of the LGBTQ community, which we're a part of, and that's a whole nother conversation. But you're allowed to disagree with somebody. It's kind of like the Candace Owens thing. You're allowed to not like what Candace Owens is saying and doing, her opinions on Turning Point, whatever. But it's another when people are making it their job to make sure that no one listens to her, or make sure that they're not tearing her down, but like debunking instead of just going about your day.
See, I think it's actually, I disagree with you, and I've done a lot of videos debunking Candace because I think if somebody, I don't want Candace censored. I don't want her deleted, deplatformed, taken down. But I think she's made her investigation and her theories, I think she's made so many mistakes and errors. And we don't need to get into a whole Candace Owens tangent.
Yeah.
That I think it's good if other content creators fact check her and point it out the same way that like we fact check MSNBC anchors and CNN hosts and Democratic politicians that say crazy stuff. It's like if people are saying things that are wrong or pushing theories we think are wrong, what's wrong with pushing back on it when they're a massively influential person? Isn't that kind of everything that we do as political creators?
But it just seems like instead of, okay, for example, say you don't like the things that Nick Fuentes says. Instead of just, oh, I don't like this, he's right about this, I don't like this, it's literally F him, racist, Hitler, down with Nick. It's rare that it's just a very fair, like, I don't like the man, free speech, do what you want to do, here's what my reasonings, and then going about their day. It's literally like a either you love him or you hate him type vibe.
I guess is there anyone who's extreme enough? Because Nick literally says he loves Hitler, loves Stalin. Is there anyone extreme enough that you think they should just be condemned and say like F him, he's evil?
It depends on the context of like the situation, because even in the instances of like, oh, I love Stalin, I love Hitler. Okay, well, why? Like literally,
is there
why?
an acceptable reason? Is there an
and
acceptable reason to love Stalin or Hitler?
For examples, like when people say, "Oh, I love Hitler," they could have loved him for his charisma. They could have loved him for his leadership and how he was able to lead these groups, because it takes so much context. You got it takes so much. When someone
I don't know.
says,
I think if you kill millions,
hold on.
Good.
Hold on.
Sure.
Operation Paperclip. United States took in 1,600 of the best Nazis and brought them in to work for us and to be a part of our government and be a part of NASA, Disney, so many different programs, right? We know that to be a thing. We agree on that, right?
I don't know anything about it, but I'll take your word for it.
Operation Paperclip. To a certain extent, you can craft like, oh, hey, one thing America did like was Hitler's team that he built. So they took that team and went and worked with it. So it's just, I'm not, for example, like for me, like I would be the person back in like the, I don't know, 40s, 50s, I would be the person interviewing Klansmen. Like I would be eager to go to a Klansman's house and sit down at dinner and just like understand like what is going on here. So that's where I'm coming from.
See, I can respect that, but I think like I'm not against interviewing someone like Nick Fuentes. I'm against softball interviewing him, which is what I hear
like, oh, I love Hitler. I'm not taking that as like, I love every single thing that he did, every murder that he made. No, I'm also looking at the grand scheme of things. We go on Instagram Reels right now. There's so many like Hitler memes, glazing Hitler and looking at the things under Hitler and his speeches. Like it's not just Nick. So that's the thing. Like if you're going to go after Nick, you're going after millions of people with millions of different views.
People are misguided.
And perspectives.
Yeah, and I think he's led them astray.
And it's like, it reminds me of this podcast that I saw Nick Fuentes on, and he was like, yeah, something. I think he said Hitler was great, something about being great. And the podcast host was like, what the hell? Like, you think Hitler's great? Ha ha ha. That's crazy. That's crazy. But Nick is so literal. He's like, no. Do you know the definition of great? Like vast, large, like huge in impact. Like Hitler was great. Which is a fair statement. He was a great figure. He was huge in our history. He was huge in our past. So there's different ways it can be taken. And I'm sitting here minding my business. Sitting like, well, I don't have the time to go through every single ounce of context or how this was taken, how this was spun. So just like, I don't
I guess
know.
though that then you can't really condemn anyone for any extreme or hateful thing they say. If there's always a context or there's always, people that agree with them that you don't want to condemn those people. I don't really
Because
agree with that approach.
Even in this, okay, do you condemn somebody for killing someone else?
Unless they were defending themselves.
Okay. If someone took your child, beat it, raped it, and killed it, and someone killed them, would you like disavow them? Like, that was so wrong. You should never do something like that.
No. Now,
So
the law still punish someone who vigilante murders a criminal? Yeah, but I personally would have sympathy for the action.
Exactly. So there's like, it can go so far as, yeah, like there could be context to certain scenarios based off of more context.
I guess though, I do agree that there's always context, and a lot of times we condemn figures based on clips that are taken out of context. But I have watched hours and hours and hours of Nick Fuentes and like his actual underlying positions. It's not just like jokes or clips out of context are extreme and I think evil. I mean, he thinks, for example, interracial marriage shouldn't be legal, should not be socially normalized or allowed. He also believes about women that they should essentially be second-class citizens, not allowed to vote, kept in the home. And let me play you a clip of him talking about that on Piers.
Just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I have no idea what the answer is and you haven't got to answer. But are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid.
So part of that is funny, and I actually think Piers was wrong to like go after him for not having sex. Like his personal life doesn't matter.
He's a devout. Nick's saying he's a devout Catholic, so yeah, why would you go after someone who's like saving?
I agree.
Marriage?
That part was dumb, but Nick is very clear. Like he doesn't believe women should have the right to vote. He thinks they should be second-class citizens. To me, that is like. We call things, everyone's misogynist, everyone's sexist. Those terms are watered down. But if that is not genuinely misogynistic and sexist, then nothing is. And I thought we all agreed that actually wanting to discriminate or subjugate people on the basis of their immutable characteristics is evil and wrong.
I would just love to unpack it, because even for me, you see my stories. They get crazy on Instagram. I did an opinion poll and I said, for all the women out there, do you think women should have the right to vote? And it was like 50-50. So when I'm hearing Nick say that, I'm also in my head thinking of the thousands of women that follow me. They're like, yeah, we should not be voting. So that's why I immediately just put it on the back burner. I'm okay, well, let's hear them out. What y'all got to say?
That's just where I think there's a good argument for it.
I'm always just down to hear somebody else. Like, all right, what do you think? Not that I agree with it. Do I think there are some crazy women out there? Yeah. Do I think there's something for the highest divorce rate is lesbians, then straight couples? then gays, yeah. Is there something to be said for, I mean, there's a lot can be said about men, the differences in men and women and different roles. And we're not going to go down that road right now. But I'm like, I'm not going to hear that and then go, ew, this person's misogynistic, and then like completely never listen to them ever again.
See, I think there are some beliefs and positions you can take that demonstrate values and a disposition that is so hateful and irrational that it's fair to write you off as a person at least until those views evolve. You don't think there's anyone out of bounds, you should still just keep listening to them?
Yeah, because you're not listening to 100% of everything that they're saying and co-signing 100% of everything that they're saying. So for me, like, I'm not gonna write off like Nick 100% just because he says something that I think is out of pocket or crazy.
But I guess what you're saying relies on the idea that he is earnestly advocating for what he believes in and is a consistent and principled person, even if he has bad and terrible ideas. And I would be more inclined to agree with your perspective if I thought that was actually the case. But I actually think he's a fraud and doesn't believe half the shit that he's saying. I mean, you look at how... Remember, he was the America First guy, and then he's suddenly saying he loves Trump. Now he hates Trump. He was saying that he'll vote for Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance, who is much closer to his worldview he's built his entire career around, because J.D. Vance is ugly and has a brown wife, and Gavin Newsom is hot and has a white wife, which, by the way, can we talk about how homoerotic and sus that is? But it's like, you're not a serious political operating with genuine principles, even if,
So
the principles I disagree with.
Like he's the president. Like, if we're going to say that he's not
influential.
And the people that listen to him I don't think Nick's followers, I'm not going to say all of them, because I can't just blanket the whole group, but I'm not going to say if someone follows or is fine with Nick, they are also fine with 100% of what Nick says.
Sure.
I don't find that to be the case.
That's true for most people.
Right. And so when I hear like, oh, he wants to go towards not JD because how JD looks, and not DeSantis, Cali.
Newsom,
yes, looks better. I've seen that get so many thousands of retweets, even from the left. People are like, oh, choose wisely. And it's like, he is fine. A ripped Gavin Newsom versus like a JD Vance.
But that's so stupid.
It's exactly. So why care? It's stupid. Like,
I mean, why
am
care?
I really going to sit here and think that someone's literally going to vote for Newsom just based off of how he looks? Maybe. I don't think so. Like the Kanye. You know how many people said they're going to vote for Kanye and didn't? Because it was just funny. It was just a meme.
But I guess if you can't judge political commentators off of their political commentary when they say stupid things, what can you judge them based on?
I guess I just look at everybody as human. Like, I don't even look at you as a political commentator. Like, no shade. Like, you're Brad. There's Clarkson. There's Amir. There's Brett. There's Nick. Like, I'm not attaching, for example, and if they say that, to me, I just think it's easier to quickly say it. Like, if someone's like, oh, Amir, what do you do? Oh, center, right perspective. I do talk about politics, political commentator, social commentator. In passing, sure. But even like my friend Nick Shirley, he goes around saying, oh, I'm an investigative journalist. He is doing some investigative journalism, but not in my head what I'm thinking about, like an old school BuzzFeed, Vice, 60 Minutes vibe. That's what I think about. But I'm not taking people's titles and running with it, especially coming from corporate America where half these titles are nonsense and everybody's doing a little bit of something.
So I guess the other thing that I don't appreciate about Nick, that I wonder if you have thoughts on, is he does what I'd call like a Mott and Bailey. Like, he says something extreme and edgy, and then you really press him on it, and he adopts a totally different position. He did this with Pierce, and you've heard his line, which, again, as a joke, I can see the humor and value when he goes like, women need to shut up, black people need to be in jail for the most part.
That is,
it's funny as a
that's
joke.
my favorite clip ever.
But if you believe it unironically, I think it's an evil thing to believe. And he was pressed on it with Piers Morgan, how you really say most black people should be in jail. And he
Yes, they
retreats to this.
should.
What do you mean? Most
They
black
should.
people?
Yes. The ones that obviously do the crimes, but I don't need to
But
explicitly
that's not what that
elaborate.
sentence means.
I'm not taking that 110% literal. And even like for Nick, he's like, oh, I get what he's saying. Like even my father, when I made the video and people were in the comments talking about it, like we easily get what he's saying. The other black content creators who react to Nick got what he's saying. Yeah, most blacks do need to be put in jail because they keep getting let out. You watch any body cam footage, the code blue cams, code blue safety, daily dose of crime. There's so much.
But that's
Even
a
outside
tiny
of that,
percentage of black people.
it's
Half
enough.
of
It's enough black people out there in these hoods, in these streets
it's
that
not most.
do something, and they get let out. Do something, get let out, or don't even get in trouble at all. They plotting, scheming, scamming. I know, allegedly, I know many black scammers. They're not in jail. I think they should be. I think I totally understood what he was saying. Like, and most blacks need to be locked up. Yeah, but
See, I
obviously
think that is
not a black person that hasn't committed a crime. No.
See, I think his words mean what they say, not like what you could extrapolate them to mean, right? We don't
Hmm.
give other people the benefit of the doubt in that way. Like if I was to tell you most gay people should be executed, right? And you were
Hmm.
like, that's fucked up. Most gay people haven't done anything wrong, even if there's a few here or there who have committed horrific
Hmm.
abuses or whatever. It wouldn't be fair to me to then say, well, what I meant by that statement was that gay people who molest children should be executed. Well, that's like, point whatever tiny percentage of gay
Hmm.
people. So, of course, your original statement is totally different from what you're saying you actually meant. And I think that's why I find that kind of blanket statement so objectionable and absurd about black people.
I just don't, because even your sentence there, the example of, um, it's a little much. Most black gay people should be executed. Let's just say you said, oh, most
Or
gays,
most gay people should be in jail, to
most
use the same
gay
example.
people should be in jail. I would say, okay, what do you mean by that? I don't know. Like even on my channel, I'm sure the amount of gay content that I've made, I am sure there's a video out there of me saying, yeah, these gays are crazy. These gays, they're driving me up a wall. These gays are ridiculous. And yeah, I'm saying these gays are, but in the context of that video and what I'm talking about, yeah. Like when I'm looking at a pride parade, I'm like, these gays are crazy. I'm not talking about every single literal gay person there, but I am talking about friendling around naked in front of kids. I feel like I've
So,
definitely said something like that. So I'm not gonna hear someone else, another person like us, a content creator, hear them say something and be like, that's gross and reprehensible without taking in at least what is the context behind this? What is he talking about? And when I take in the full context, I've gone about this in my video of Nick, where Nick and I have grown up in the same area. I don't know him personally, but we grew up in the Chicagoland area. We see the things, we've seen the same stuff. It's like when Piers was pressing Nick on avoiding the black fare, the black restaurants. Yeah. Even black people in Atlanta right now, we can all go on TikTok. There are people making reels about not going to black brunch spots because you don't want hookah in your pancake juice. Like, and you don't want to go anywhere with the fake green grass wall, and you don't want no Hennessy Douce spiced Jamaican rub salmon bites. It's a meme to avoid black restaurants because they're ratchet, ghetto, and loud. So when I'm hearing Nick talk about his father and saying, oh, we avoided the black restaurants, I get it. Because even Beyonce got it when she made her song Formation, talking about when he asked me so good, I take his ass to Red Lobster. Because growing up, Red Lobster, Olive Garden, all these places was like creme de la crop, like going out to eat for Black culture. I know it's for white people too, but especially for Black culture, that's what it was. And you go to these restaurants, it's just hood, it's just decrepit, tons of Black people, loud, ghetto, ratchet, and you don't want to be around that. There's a reason why Black people leave the hoods and go to the
So
white suburbs. There's
I
reasons
think
why, real quick, there's reasons why there's Black people making memes about living in all white neighborhoods and being upset when another Black moves in.
the
There's
difference there
stuff
is
to
that
it.
those Black people don't, at the end of the day, if you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, actually hate Black people. I think they don't actually view Black people as less than white people, right? They're memeing, they're making
Mhm.
cultural commentary, they're joking about stereotypes that might have a grain of truth. But at the end of the day, they still agree with the idea that we're all humans and we're all equal and have equal dignity and worth, regardless of our skin color. I don't think Nick believes that. And
And see, I do. I don't think Nick completely 100% hates anybody that's a different color than him. Because I've seen clips of him saying otherwise. I've seen clips saying anybody's actually racist, like that's actually bad. Like that's like no. So
but see how that's like fraudulent when there's so many clips saying, hell yeah, I'm racist. Like, you're not a consistent person then.
no, because even for me and some of my friends, you're getting a different version of them on the game versus not. You just
See, and
are.
another way of putting that is that they're two-faced and don't really believe the things they say
No, because you're gonna act a
in a
different
professional
way.
context.
You're gonna act a different way, Brad, if you came to my house tomorrow versus if you came to my house for the 100th time. That's not you being two-faced. That's you, your guard's down, you know how my house goes, you know where things are, you're more relaxed. So if I'm looking at Nick's stream, his home, in his live stream with all his viewers, and he's cutting up, acting a fool, saying absurd things, and then I see him all buttoned up on a Piers Morgan, I'm not looking at that as two-faced. I'm not looking at that as fake. I'm looking at, oh, he has decorum. He's a guest somewhere else. Because that's how we are in other people's homes. If I go to your
See,
home now,
I think
I'm not acting the
it's all
same
in a
as if I...
professional context, though. So it's like you're a political commentator. This is your job. This is what you do for a
But see,
living.
I think that's where we disagree. I'm not looking at it from that point of view. I'm looking at you as Brad. I'm looking at Nick as Nick. I'm not looking at it as like this super like professional context. I don't think we're in a professional realm anymore. I think the lines have been blurred so much. Like, it's not like LeBron James just a basketball player. No, now he's an influencer, content creator. You can find him on podcasts. You can find him everywhere else. And so I do think these lines are getting blurred between this person, specifically this, because we aren't seeing someone's only specifically that. It's rare. Only person I can think of that we have only, and for a long time have only gotten them in a professional context is Beyonce.
That's so funny. I was thinking of you this week because Beyonce became a billionaire and a bunch of woke
Which
people
she's already
melted
been a billionaire
down.
since 2018. Don't get me down that rabbit hole, Brad. Do not. She's been a billionaire.
Well, at least the reporting about it came out, and so people
the
were
reporting
discussing
did
it.
come out.
And
But
so
that's
I
what
thought
I
of
mean.
you.
Like, we only have ever seen Beyonce in a professional capacity. We don't know what she's like with friends. But we know she's different. That's not her being two-faced. That's us only seeing the side that she allows us to see. But in this day and age, we're seeing everybody's sides.
See, I guess I agree with you. The lines are being blurred, but I just think that when it comes to political commentary and journalism, that's actually a bad thing. And I do disagree with you. I think in the same way that if we saw a politician who, speaking to one crowd, said I'm pro-life, and then in another context said I'm pro-choice, we'd be like, this person's a fraud, right? They're just saying what they think the audience wants to hear in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I take a similar lens to political commentators who aren't consistent. Of course, when you're like working versus not working, you're going to have slightly different affects and vibes. And like, I'm not the exact same person on camera and off camera, but I
Mm-hmm.
do still believe the same fundamental things. And if you have totally different beliefs depending on what context, then I don't really think you have beliefs at all.
I think yes and no. Yes, especially for someone that is a president. But for a content creator who in large part 4 hours a day is online, I think there is room to allow context to be in the conversation. Because I don't know, what's an example? What can be contradicted for myself? I am okay. Perfect. Here's 2 sentences that I agree with that I'm just creating right now that I can break down with more context. But at face value, I agree with both sentences. I agree with immigration. I agree we need to shut our borders down and stop immigration. 2 sentences I completely agree with. With more context, I'm okay with legal immigration if you're going to assimilate into America's culture, if you're going to take an English test, if you're going to take, if you're going to do all these things, I'm all for it. And for the time being, I am down to pause all immigration because our country's a shit show right now, and I want things to be addressed. So that's an example where like someone can hear me say one of those 2 things and then think I'm being contradicting and fake. But if I apply more context to it, they're low-key the same as it's dependent on where we're at in our country right now. And I think that can be said for a lot of content creators out there. And I will give room to hear that out. Always.
Well, listen, I appreciate hearing you out and hearing your perspective. I definitely take a different view on this, but obviously there's something about him that's resonating with people. And I agree with you that we shouldn't write off the millions of people that are listening to him, and we need to understand why his message is resonating. I think that's a whole long conversation for another day. But I definitely appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Dude, I appreciate you. And that's one thing I will always respect for you, is that you are open to chat. You're open to chat.
Absolutely.
Hear somebody out. So kudos for you. Kudos to do that.
All right. Thanks, Amir.